How's it going, Mets and overall baseball fans? Welcome back to the channel. And guys, I'm excited again to this topic. This is a player that I've been wanting to discuss for a really good period of time now. And the only reason why we haven't is because we're still pretty far away from the 2024 offseason. However, a great piece from Ken Rosenthal, The Athletic, just reaffirmed what many of us Mets fans have been assuming and believing, and that is their current connection and potentially being the favorites to land. Yes, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, one of the best young Japanese phenoms there in the NPB, the Nippon Pro Baseball League. So that's what I'll be breaking down. What exactly did Ken Rosenthal have to say in his latest piece with The Athletic? What is the likelihood or lack thereof of Yoshinobu Yamamoto landing in Queens as soon as this offseason? And what type of player is he and what can he bring to Queens? That is what we're getting into. But before we go further into the video, I have to let you guys all know about today's sponsor, that being Mojo Sportsbook. Mojo Sportsbook is the live betting stock market that's based out of New Jersey. So if you are a New Jersey resident and you are a Mets fan, then listen up because this is for you. Every bet on Mojo offers live trading so you can get in and get out all game long. It's stock trading meets sports betting with money lines, player props, and a whole new career-long bet they've created. So unlike what you see with other safe sports books where you just bet on the money lines and K props, which you can certainly do here once you have great odds here at Mojo Sportsbook by clicking the link in the description, signing up today. However, what they also have is your ability to invest in players. So today's video is based around Shohei Ohtani. You can actually invest into Shohei Ohtani. You can invest into Francisco Alvarez. You can invest into whatever player you want for real dollars right now, and then you can buy low if, say, someone is hurt or not doing well. You can buy high if someone is high rolling and you know that his peak is going to be even higher than what it currently is. That is how you can invest in these players. But instead of investing, you can also do the money lines, the K props in very similar fashion as I just discussed. But the best part of this all is that you're in total control of your bets. Unlike other sports books in which you say don't get a great cash out option, you're always getting the best available cash out option possible here with Mojo Sportsbook. So all you need to do is download the app today, clicking the link in the description of this video, using my promo code WARDYNYM, that is WARDNYM, for a 20% deposit match up to $100. Again, that is WARDYNYM for a 20% deposit match up to $100. And shout out to Mojo Sportsbook for being a great sponsor on the channel. Okay, let's just talk for a second. One, I want to know your initial reactions in the comments below, because for me, I'm not shocked by this. We've talked briefly about Yamamoto over the past number of weeks now, leading up to the trade deadline, and how would the Mets really go about orchestrating their 2024 rotation. I've noted that Yamamoto is a guy that's expected to be posted from the NPB this offseason, and that's absolutely massive. The market for him is going to be astronomical. If you thought things were heating up big with Kodai Senga last offseason, it's going to be like that, but potentially double, and not only the amount of money he's going to be getting, but the desire from clubs to land him, all in part because, one, he's a young dominant phenom who has not even a 1.6 year rate right now and 16 starts this season in the NPB with the Buffaloes. But more than anything, he's coming off of what is going to look like a third consecutive season of winning the NPB's version of the Cy Young, having the Triple Crown, which is wins, ERA, strikeouts, and turning 25 in less than a week from now. So happy early birthday to you, Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Hope it's a great one, and I hope that you are in fact a New York Met in the incoming months once we get to the offseason. But let's talk a bit about Yamamoto and how this all came about, because Ken Rosenthal, as I mentioned already, came out with a beautiful piece. I will have it linked down below for you guys to check out after watching this. But he highlighted a lot of things. You know, he highlighted Max Scherzer saying how the Mets are not going into 2024 with necessarily the same aspirations and expectations as this past season. While that may be true, it's also true that the Mets are not going after specific Max Scherzer, Justin Verlander type players anymore. They're 1000% going to be active in the free agent market. However, they're not going to be going for grizzled vets, future Hall of Famers to headline their rotation, because they tried that experiment already and it quickly failed right before their eyes. They just know it's not sustainable enough, and they learned the hard way, and they flipped and got some great prospects in return for said players. But the Mets, we all know, and everyone around baseball knows, according to Ken Rosenthal, he said there isn't one person in the industry right now that doesn't fully believe that the Mets are going to be highly competitive again next season and are going to be buying, whether it's free agents and making some trade moves this offseason to better the club, not only for 2024, but specifically 2025 and beyond. What makes Yamamoto so satisfying is, one, the Mets have a good rapport when it comes to Japanese players, especially Billy Epler. Whether you love him or hate him, Epler I do not foresee going anywhere as soon as this offseason. Of course, we'll see what happens, but even if the Mets, say, bring in a David Stearns from the Milwaukee Brewers, David Stearns would come in as the president of baseball operations, which would work above Epler. So Epler would stay in his position as GM, and Epler did a great job in not only scouting, but landing Kodai Senga this past year, who's now the Mets' best starter in their rotation right now, has consistently gotten better every single start, it feels like. He has looked great in his rookie year. Seriously phenomenal stuff by Epler and the Mets to land Senga. He, of course, also signed Shohei Ohtani to the LA Angels during his time as GM. Ohtani is a guy that the Mets would love, and they are certainly going to pursue this offseason. I think the only way Ohtani doesn't land in Queens is what many of us believe, that he's going to want to stay out west, potentially there where the Angels are, very much so with either the Dodgers, the Giants, the Seattle Mariners are sprinkled in there, the Padres. But for the most part, we know that the likelihood of him landing in Queens maybe isn't great, not because of the dollar amount and the interest from the Mets, but more so because of the West Coast factor that we'll deep dive heavier this offseason when the time is right. Point being, the Mets and Billy Epler, they've had great rapport with landing Japanese pitchers in years past, and Yamamoto would be in a very appealing piece because, one, as you see from his stat line here, the guy's been an absolute stud for years on end. He started his MPP career back in 2017 when he was just a kid, and the fact that he is only turning 25 August 17th, again, happy early birthday Yamamoto, is really appealing because this is someone that can headline, be a key factor into this Mets rotation when they're really looking like a team that is focused on 2025 and beyond. Yes, they're going to try to push and have themselves a good run in 2024, but they're focused on the future with the young guns, and again, the Alvarez is still, the Beatties, the Mauricios, the Paradas, and now the younger guys that they've landed, and the Gilberts, the Cliffords, the Acuñas, all these guys that they expect to blossom should they be in the organization starting around 2025. So then by that point, okay, Yamamoto's only going to be 2027. He's going to start to get into his prime years on a long-term deal with the New York Metropolitans, and that is what's appealing to them most right now. They want to add talent. They want to add guys that can be consistent competitors for this club and give them exactly what they're looking for. But more than anything, they want players that are going to be here. If they're going to be here for the long haul, they want them younger, and they want them that have yet to hit their ceiling. Kodai Senga, we kind of know what to expect, what will potentially be his ceiling. Yamamoto's ceiling is far greater and far higher than Senga, which is saying a lot given how talented Kodai is in his own right, who leads all of baseball in whiff rate on his Ghost Fork. There is not one better pitch in swing and miss in baseball right now than Kodai Senga's Ghost Fork. So you have to be excited about a guy like Yamamoto, who has a disgusting arsenal, has a lot of velo, has a lot of swing and miss. The guy's a strikeout machine. He's going deep into games, and he is young. This is a little bit different than Senga, for example, which there's some slight concern with Senga and how he's going to project over his multiple years of his contract on that 5-year deal, because there is a clause in case he does get Tommy John surgery, because he is pitching with around a partially torn UCL. That's always a concern. Yamamoto is younger, he's vibrant, and he could really headline this rotation along with Kodai Senga for the next couple years to come. And if, say, the Mets F around and do say land Shohei Ohtani, that would only be more appealing for Ohtani if they guarantees that, saying, hey, we're getting Yamamoto, we would love for you to be part of this Japanese type group of our rotation, not only because of the Japanese descent, but you know these guys, you won with them in recent years, whether you won at the WBC with them or, over this past year or a couple years prior when Kodai Senga was pitching for Team Japan. He did not this year because he wanted to be in the States and be at spring training with the Mets, which I really appreciated. But Yamamoto was there. He helped Team Japan win their championship this year over Team USA. And who was also there, you might wonder? Yes, it was Billy Epler. Epler did a great job going to Japan, scouting Yamamoto specifically among other players in Japan during the WBC. This is something that he has done for multiple years on end, going to Japan, scouting guys in the MPB, and he really likes Yamamoto. I've heard a lot of great things in the industry as a whole that has really led you to believe that the Mets landing Yamamoto will not be an easy task by any stretch, because a lot of teams, a lot of people are going to want this guy, and for good reason. However, there is further reason to believe that the Mets, already having landed Senga, having a GM that knows a lot about the MPB, the Nippon Pro Baseball League, about Japanese baseball and its culture, that kind of gives the Mets a one-up in this situation. And you have an owner that is certainly willing to spend, and will most certainly be willing to spend, on a pitcher that is just getting his MLB career started. Again, the kid isn't even 25 yet. I shouldn't say kid, I'm younger, but you know, the point stands here. This guy has oodles amount of potential, and to see him having the nasty stuff that he has, what he could potentially headline in this rotation, the full belief is that Yamamoto at best could be an ace in baseball. Many believe Kodai Senga is already being that ace caliber pitcher, even though I think he will probably sit around at number 3 in a rotation. But just imagine the thought of having a Yoshinobu Yamamoto at the age of 25 for the 2024 season. Kodai Senga very much in his prime in this rotation. Maybe Shohei Ohtani. I'm not going to get my hopes up on Shohei, but he will be that, of course, focused topic that we will discuss at further length until we find out where he is landing. We're going to be milking that thing for all we can, because, you know, Shohei Ohtani. We got to talk about him. Anytime the Mets are linked with him, anytime that there's potential there, because when there's smoke, a lot of times there is fire. And Steve Cohen, the one thing that he can control best is spending the dollars he wants. He's going to be a big spender again. He's just not going to be spending foolish. He's not going to be spending as much for short-term fits. He's focused a little bit more on the longer-term 2024 beyond and wanting to see a nice, healthy balance of young, exciting talent for the years on end in this team to have them be a consistent competitor, a contender, along with guys already in the organization, which is why Ken Rosenthal also made a great note of Pete Alonso and his interesting future. The Mets are likely not going to go to a 9-year deal like they did with Aaron Judge, that being the Yankees, for Alonso. However, the Mets would like to keep Alonso, and he's going to really be that key test as to what the Mets decide to do. Could they land on an extension? Are they just going to sign him to a big deal once he becomes a free agent? We do not know that answer yet, but what we do know is that the Mets are focused on being a really strong team for 2024, not going all in and spending $43 million a year of multiple years on 40-year-olds for the rotation, but they're going to be strategic about their spending. They're going to spend plenty. They're going to do some trades. They're going to do all these different things to make their club better for 2024, but also have them in the driver's seat to really have young talent start to blossom before our very eyes. Organizational depth for 2025 and beyond. That is the Dodgers way. That is how the Dodgers have been so good year after year. The Astros, the Braves, what do all these teams have in common? Not only being consistent contenders for the World Series, but they do their spending to a degree in the offseason, but they really hone in on their homegrown talent. And they use that homegrown talent to blossom when guys go down with injury, or to help us say, hey, we have a big guy, a big name that's leaving in free agency. We don't feel he's deserving of that money. The contract isn't going to age well. We have a top prospect that's going to come up and do well. And a lot of the times for these respective clubs, as that has been exactly the case. So a lot of things to follow, a lot of things to be excited about. But Yoshinobu Yamamoto, a name to start following. Mets fans, if you're a casual, start to get more in on him. Start to watch his highlights, watch his games if you can over there in the MPB. Something that I've been focused on a lot more since the Mets land Kodai Senga. I will certainly be doing that because there's many more names aside from Yamamoto who's expected to be posted that could have themselves linked with the Mets as soon as this offseason. So make sure you guys are doing your due diligence. But more than anything, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. How do you feel about the Mets potentially landing one of the best young phenoms right now in the MPB in Yoshinobu Yamamoto? Do you think that would be a nice move? Again, we're talking longer term deal, longer term than Kodai Senga. We're talking easily in the $150 million, $160 million plus range of a long-term contract for a guy that hasn't even pitched in the MLB before. Do you think that's a risk worth taking? Do you think the risk outweighs the reward? Whatever your thoughts are, make sure to drop them down below. Thank you guys so much for the consistent support, and stay tuned for consistent content. As always, we'll be having post-game shows and recaps throughout the Braves series this weekend. I'll be out of town, but I'll be doing my best to be covering said series regardless. More individual videos will be coming out in the near future on a bunch of different topics for the organization as a whole. I have I have a laundry list of things I want to get into in the coming weeks, so I'm excited to share them with you all. Thank you so much again, and as always, let's go Mets, baby. Peace out.